Energizer still going.
Can we take these off?
I'm actually going to keep mine on.
Are you?
Yeah. I like
But I look
Energizer the
stupid
most.
with sunglasses on.
So we
I
leave
always
them on.
have. But
That's the
whatever.
decision.
We like Energizer. We appreciate them. We appreciate all of you watching. Dan Hanzus, you are the author of NFL's Power Rankings, and we immediately get to the top of the pop since you just returned from the UK.
Yes.
That is what we will call the top 8.
Good ref.
No change at number 1. The Patriots
Okay, now we
still
can see.
undefeated. Still your defending Super Bowl champions, and I would assume it would take a loss to unseat them from that number 1 position. But look at that big move from the 49ers to number 2. So why don't we start right there at the team coming down here to Los Angeles where we sit right now and really beating up the Rams something good.
Didn't it feel like it reminded me of week 15, 2017, when the Rams went up to Seattle and whooped up on the Seahawks. And it felt like a changing of the guard game. Got a little bit of the same vibe here with the Niners, who just, absolutely dominated this game, especially on defense. I believe the Rams averaged 2.5 yards a play after their first touchdown drive. It was absolute dominance, and if there was any question about whether we should believe in the Niners and think that they could beat top competition, well, I don't know where the Rams are, but I was so impressed. I can't wear these anymore. I was so impressed nonetheless. Yeah.
What about, just before we get to you and kind of where they fit in the NFC for you, what about the Patriots? Because after that win, you could say now the 49ers have a signature win. They came to Los Angeles. They didn't just win. They won in dominating fashion, completely shut down Sean McVay's offense. How close were you to putting them at number 1 based on the lack of competition the Patriots have faced thus far?
One of my Around the NFL podcast compadres, Chris Wessling, who knows much more about football than I do, was giving me some heat saying the Niners should be number 1. But ultimately, I thought you got the defending Super Bowl champion. They've won every single game. Their defense, it's been lopsided. It just didn't pass the smell test for me to drop them yet. But the Niners, a couple more of these performances, and I won't have any choice.
See, Dan, you are playing into the folks at the NCAA's preseason ranking hands. Actually, they have nothing to do with the preseason rankings, but that's what's wrong with the NCAA and college football is you have this preseason and you have to base it on the preseason. Well, I can't push that guy down because, well, I shouldn't say that team down because they were there, so what did they do? It's just a weekly thing, man.
So you think the Pats should not be one?
I think I would put, based on what I've seen thus far, I think I would put the 49ers at number 1.
Well,
how
doesn't
about
that
you,
make
Cynthia?
you just this bastion of integrity?
Hey, I'm the guy with the sunglasses on, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that cool? All right, I'm taking them off. Cynthia, how about you? Let's go 49ers versus the rest of the NFC. And if you see a gap there, how tight it is for you.
I know it's just one game, and it was actually a game that's against a divisional opponent, and it's a big deal. But I didn't see enough from the Rams to say that was like a really great,
like a signature win.
A signature win. Look, they're undefeated. There's no way to deny that that's important and impressive. And in the NFC, when it's super competitive, just top to bottom, it's like this side of the league is so much more competitive than the AFC. I just think that, remember, I do it looking forward, right? So they still have a lot more competition left, whereas the Patriots, they're just going to walk right into the playoffs. And that's to me, that's you got to make the playoffs and win the Super Bowl. So
see, now here's where I contradict myself. Because now that I think about it, Jimmy Garoppolo did not have a good game.
No.
That pick he threw was brutal.
Very bad.
Brutal. And I guess you still kind of got to ask yourself, without 2 starting members of your offensive line, perhaps for the foreseeable future, do you really think that's the best team in the league? So, yeah.
There were questions about the Niners.
I'm back with the Patriots at number 1.
I mean, there are
You talked
questions
me into it.
about the Niners on offense, but none on defense.
Right.
Same thing with the Pats,
Let's go Texans. They move up. They go into Kansas City. They get a victory. Deshaun Watson is now in that MVP conversation. You put him up to number 6. How close were you to having him even higher than that? Because a lot of people are excited about the Texans right now.
And I am too, and I have them up 6 spots to get to 6, and I think with another win or 2, they will enter that top 5 and maybe even top 3 territory, because I think what we have in Houston is a quarterback in Deshaun Watson who is so special. His ability to carry a team with his greatness. I think he's on the short list of the very best players in football. And the AFC is top-heavy. I know the Chiefs are struggling right now, but I still see them as a superpower. Just talked about the Pats. Obviously, they are a superpower. And I think Houston is the 3rd team now that I feel pretty strongly about. One of those 3 teams is going to the Super Bowl. A lot could change from now until the end of January, of course. But I think Houston's for real. I think this is a 12-win team, and I think they have a bye.
I think Houston benefited a lot from Jalen Ramsey leaving. Sounds kind of strange, but that now became a division where Houston is it's theirs to take, right? This Indianapolis game this week will go a long way in deciding who really makes it from the Texans. So for me, I completely agree. I think that they're making the push for the AFC's like wild card versus division winner like a lot more interesting. And I honestly think they could be vying for that second spot depending on what happens with the Chiefs, because they still have the Patriots left and a number of teams. So I agree the Chiefs are a superpower, but you got to win the ones you're supposed to win, and they didn't.
And now Houston has the tiebreaker in a head-to-head match over Kansas City.
Right, and then also, but again, you mentioned the Colts, such a big one. But for the Texans, they beat the Chargers on the road, they beat the Chiefs on the road. Again, tiebreaker, the way it shakes out. Those are AFC games, so the more AFC wins you can pile up, if for whatever reason it doesn't work out for them in the wild card or in the division, that also helps them out there. All right, let's get to 9 through 17.
Let's see it.
Or 9 through 16, I should say.
I really nailed this quadrant, I thought.
See,
I'm really good about this.
I would love to agree with you, but I can't.
All right.
Because I don't know how. You know what? We'll get to it. Because I know who's upset with you, and it's the team that's at number 10 right there. And I do believe they have a legitimate case to be upset with you.
Why?
Well, because both the Bears and the Bills are on a bye,
Right.
and you have the Bears move up to coming off a loss.
No, I mean,
the Bills coming off a win on the road don't move up. Doesn't that seem a bit odd to you?
And the Cowboys had a pretty big loss, and they only moved down a little bit, 3 spots.
Well,
I don't know, Bills Mafia. I'm on your side on this
anybody
one.
that gets too worked up about a 1 or 2 spot shift during the bye week, that's just stuff that happens around them. It doesn't change how I feel about them. I have them as a top 10 team in the NFL.
But don't you get better in the bye week? You get healthier. You have another week to game plan. No?
We don't know what's going on in their personal lives during the bye week.
You're feeling good.
Could get a lot worse.
But what would you rather have in your bye week? Coming off a win or coming off a loss? I'm just saying
I get that.
Look.
Listen, I didn't drop them. They just didn't rise like another team.
But you had the Bears jump them.
I think the Bears are a better team.
I do.
Even without, they lost a lineman, and then they lost a defensive lineman. They lost 2 players in the trenches.
You guys make good points.
You're still jet lagged. All right, let's quickly, because there you saw a team in there. Exactly right. Jalen Ramsey is now part of a team on that 9 through 16, the Rams. So why don't we, just dip our toe into the water of the defensive backfield of the Rams here. All right. And I paused for dramatic effect.
I like that.
So how much do we think that it will affect? I thought we
it's
had
huge.
Jalen Ramsey.
Easy to go back on
Ramsey
here
is
for
one
me
of the
too.
great talkers in the league. I had assumed we would have something.
So you could hide from the shame when you're wearing these.
I have
I'm
no
with
shame.
you.
I have no shame. I have no dignity.
Let's.
How does it impact, and how much do you think it will? Look, they have the Atlanta Falcons and the Cincinnati Bengals. They're next to. They're likely going to move up in the power rankings.
to get warmed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Jalen Ramsey added to that team.
Jalen Ramsey is an incredible player. I hated the way his career in Jacksonville ended. I thought it spoke to some shortcomings in character, quite frankly, about basically sitting out those games because he was unhappy.
I'm back.
But I will say that he is one of the elite defenders in the entire league.
There he is.
And we know that Aqib Talib and Jason Peters, what the Rams thought that could be as a combo, it never quite came to pass. It never all came together. Now Talib's on IR, and Jason Peters is sent away 10 cents on the dollar. I think they're going to get a lot better with Ramsey. They do feel a little bit top-heavy now, the Rams, and you wonder how that impacts them down the line because they're going to have to pay him crazy money.
But is it yours a snapshot? Is it yours a snapshot? Right now?
Right.
Yes.
Right,
Much
I'm
better
a
today than they
long-term
were.
person. You're the...
Much better today than yesterday, real versus field.
We'll figure it out later. You know what? Let's go get the best corner in the league, and we'll figure out how to pay
They've
him
got
later.
great
I think that's a great move.
Other than Aaron Donald, the perimeter's stacked, and Aaron Donald's obviously one of, if not the best player in football. But they've got the edges taken care of. They've got great receivers. Now they've got arguably the best corner in the league. Let's see if it can come together. Right. We can pay him later.
And there were issues, reportedly with Marcus Peters and that team. And
we've heard that since Kansas City.
Yeah, just him barking about maybe looking a lot worse than he thought he was because he wasn't getting help behind him that he thought was there. And I think, now you have a team that's losing and you have chemistry issues. Makes a lot of sense.
He's always gambled, and that's kind of especially with Weddle coming and the changes they've made to their defense in this offseason, that wasn't the best fit strategically.
Right. I mean, look, their schedule is favorable. I will point out Jalen Ramsey cannot fix their offensive line, and it's a mess. And when that offensive line's a mess, guess who else is a mess? Jared Goff. He needs a clean pocket. You saw the difference between what he had with Jeff Fisher after they bring in Whitworth and Sullivan, how much better he was. If it gets dirty in there, I feel like there is a precipitous drop. I mean, look at that. That's a third down pass. He airmails Woods. He airmailed Everett on that's a catchable ball for Josh Reynolds. But, look at that. And granted, you shouldn't even be throwing that pass in the first place. And I think it's just him, when he gets off his spot, his clock speeds up so quick while his decision-making slows down, and it is just a disaster of a combination.
You know, like pitchers on a pitch count, right? Like you have this optimal amount of times that you should throw the ball where you're just the most accurate, and they're not really strategically. They're going way heavier, so they're having more tight ends and fewer
because they need
options.
the protection.
Right, they need the protection to make up for the O-line. Like, I'm not as down on Jared Goff, but for me, it's more about like, can they strategically realign? Like Todd Gurley not playing, making that decision on Saturday, like that's messy, and for the game plan, and then it just seemed like the whole thing was out of whack, and then you ask him to throw the ball just so many more times than maybe the optimal for his sort of skill into coverage.
And there's always been a vibe. Everyone's always talked about it. If Goff was a little bit protected in the cocoon of McVay and all the talent around him. Well, what we're seeing now, and I don't want to write off Goff as a guy that was always a little not as great as maybe his stats indicated, but when he had Todd Gurley, the best running back in the world, when he had one of the best offensive lines in the world, well, things were easy. Now the pressure's on him to be better than he's ever been. Can he handle that pressure? And that's what we're going to find out.
But it's
so
also
far,
a little
not so
unfair
good.
last game. I mean, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm like more of a. I don't think Jared Goff's as bad as he seems. Like, what if the game plan changed on Saturday? Because if they announced Todd Gurley on Saturday, it seemed like that was a genuine change.
I mean, they know.
I don't know.
And that game plan's not built around Gurley anymore either.
Because they can't. Because it's outside zone, they're taking it away, and now it's on Goff, and he's not producing. So, look, it's a get-right week for them.
Rams fans,
Good
that's
combo.
Matt Money Smith saying that? No, I'm
Right.
just kidding.
So here we go. Power to the people. Oh, yeah, Bills chap.
Here we are again.
Bears leapfrog the Bills. There we go, my man
Exactly.
Chap. After both teams run a bye and coming off a loss against the Raiders. Seems legit. Love sarcasm at the
That
end.
was good. That was
10th,
good.
really? I'm with you. Bills fan 365. I'd go 364. Maybe give yourself a day where you don't have to be a fan.
Exactly.
Should be 6. Okay, now let's see the point here from Jeff. Second best record in the AFC. Lost to one team by one score. Best team in the NFL the last decade. Don't care about the last decade. Care about 2019. You put them at 10. Pitiful. Week 16, the Bills will go into Foxborough and win, clinching home field advantage.
My counterpoint there would be they also almost lost to the Jets by one possession too. So if you're counting the one possession wins, you got to also look at the one possession losses.
Yeah.
But see, not all losses are created equal. They were down 16-0
It was a kicking
to the
error.
Jets
It was
in
a
the
kicking
opener,
error.
and
And
It
they
was
beat
a
a guy with
kicking
mono.
error.
They beat a guy with mono at quarterback.
Exactly, mono.
When
Undefeated.
we return, we will get to teams making big moves into the third tier, specifically the Broncos, with their second straight win behind a dominant defensive line. Where do they land next?
Steelers show blitz. Rivers is going to throw this.
Oh, that's a lateral pass, and it's dropped, and the Steelers pick it up, and they got it to the 10, 5, and it's Devin Bush into the end zone for a defensive touchdown.
Well, both teams included in this pack of rankings. 17, the Ravens lead the way for the third tier. You see the Steelers there at 19. Chargers slip all the way down to 22. This was a team inside the top 10 at the start of the season, and it has been a struggle for the Bolts. But let's get to power moves presented by Energizer, still going. And why don't we start with that Steelers team that came out here to Los Angeles behind a third-string practice squad, actually technically fourth string at the start of the season because he was on the practice squad, undrafted free agent out of Samford, Devlin Hodges, leaning on that defense and getting a victory. The Steelers up 7 spots.
Duck. Yeah, and they did a nice job protecting themselves from Duck's limitations, a lot of screen passes. It was the defense of Pittsburgh that really jumped out at you, and Devin Bush is finally the guy that they needed. Ryan Shazier and the injury that he suffered, the defense in the center was not the same, but now they got a guy that can do everything for them, and you see how they've been able to kind of get back into the AFC North race. I don't see a huge drop-off between the Steelers and the Ravens in terms of at the top of this division. I think they're a team that's going to hang around now.
Yeah, the Tuitt injury is really going to hurt them because I'll tell you that, and that's something we saw all year, is that front seven, or let's just say the front five, when you just take your 3 interior linemen, and Watt specifically on one side, that's as nasty as any front in the league. And I think you saw it in that Charger game. If they can give you a lead, that defense can wreck. And that's probably going to be the key for them moving forward, is trying to build that, let's say, 10-point lead early and leaning on their strength.
Oh, their defense is for sure a really, overall still good. Tuitt is a huge injury. Yeah. Did you just say there? Look, I'm taken aback that. Do you think they're going to win the division?
I think the Ravens would be my pick, but I think the Steelers will be playing relevant football in December.
So Browns, Steelers, you're going Steelers.
I think the Browns are a mess right now.
Yeah, the one thing to remember though is schedule.
The schedule
works
right?
out for the Browns. It really works out for the Browns.
I was taken aback by that.
I don't think there's a team that's going to have 12 wins in that. I think it's a 10-win, maybe wins the division type situation. And I think they could win 8 or 9 games, the Steelers.
Yeah, I think the people that are just kind of pushing the Ravens into that spot, there's issues there. I think there's still some issues with
I'm
the
not
Ravens.
pushing, but I'm saying you keep losing pieces, key pieces, like quarterback,
huge.
backup quarterback, Tuitt, your pass rush, you keep losing just a ton of pieces
That's
like
a
that.
good point.
And it's really hard.
And Juju Smith-Schuster, who everyone pegged as a superstar that would come in and give you Antonio Brown production. It's not obviously all on him, but you see he's completely fallen out of this offense because he doesn't have a quarterback that can get him the ball.
I mean, I'll just quickly, to give him credit, having been at that game, he got no targets. Yeah. They were super conservative, and he blocked his tail off in the running game. I mean, I think that speaks to the difference between Juju and when Antonio Brown was there.
Not so much a blocker.
He was unreal in terms of blocking and opening up and kind of giving life to a run game that did not have any life coming into this contest. So I'll at least give him a nod there.
That's
Talk
fair.
about a great team player, a guy that everybody on that team loves, and really what they need.
I just think at some point, you have to have players in order to win. The better players typically win. And I think the Browns will pick it up, especially given their late season schedule. And then Steelers, their defense is great, but I'm shocked.
I'm just waiting for the Trent Williams
I'm
trade.
shocked.
That's all I'm waiting for. Where is the Trent Williams trade?
Jets.
Would be to some degree a panacea for the Browns. But let's move to the Broncos, because that is our other power move. They are up 5 spots. And it really was, I think, a case that we all alluded to here, Cynthia, and that's that this team is better than their record. They lost on 2 last-minute game-winning field goals. The defense is still chock full of talent, and eventually that would probably show up in a law of averages sort of way.
The middle of the field, defending the middle of the field is a big deal. Getting pieces back in the middle of that field defense changed the ability to run on the Broncos. And that really made everything else sort of click together, because you are missing one of your key pass rushers. But, you still got that other guy, Von Miller. He was someone we really talked about a lot, and then we didn't, whatever. So long story short, here you get that nice, triangle of stopping the run, and then you got the pass rush from Von, and then you got Chris Harris Jr. In the back. You have a nice triangle of pressure.
Wasn't this kind of how we expected it to be with Vic Fangio
geez.
at the forefront, that this would be a defensive-minded team that wouldn't be asking their offense to do a ton, but they would have enough ability to make enough plays to win a bunch of 17-14 games. So while I don't see the Broncos as a Super Bowl team, they were never as bad as Money you alluded to as their record indicated. And I think they're a team that's going to be very tough to beat at home every week and could put up a fight on the road because that defense has the ability to get stops and turn a game on its head.
Il suo cognome è Fangio, non è Fangio. È Fangio.
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 You gotta hit the
Sì,
Fangio.
no.
Vic
Cognome
Fangio.
Fangio. I'll say this about the Broncos. How do you win, right? O-line, D-line. O-line still,
Dicey.
yeah, that's the one thing that could.
They're better at run blocking.
Yes,
than
much
they
better
are
now
at
than
pass,
they were.
in
But
pass
I think
pro.
Garrett Bowles, that's still a bit
not
like,
good.
I'm not quite sure I'm there yet. All right, Dan, I hear you need to direct a segment.
There's a new seg.
Yes. Oh,
You know,
boy, and
I
you called it a seg.
I reached out to
Seg.
Matt Tanton. I said, we got a new seg. The voice
your
of the
hair.
Chargers talks about what's wrong with the Chargers without getting fired. Matt Money Smith, of course. This is his second season, I believe, or third season as the man behind the mic over there in the Dignity Sports Healthcare
Dignity Health
Center.
Sports Park.
The park.
Yeah, Rocket Field, don't forget that part.
Rocket Field. And
Try
now
not to get fired here.
I throw it to you, good man. Let us
Lots.
know what is wrong with the
Lots.
Chargers. But be careful, of course,
Yes.
because it's a nice gig.
Lots is wrong with the Chargers. Where do I start?
Do we have a meter for next week
Yeah,
where
you know
there's
what? I'll follow
when
the
he starts to
video.
get in
Yeah,
danger?
I will follow the I'll follow the video, as Charlie Casserly would say. Roll the tape. So there's Forrest Lamp, who can't anchor and gets Hargrave shoves him back into the lap of Phillip Rivers that leads to that interception. Now this, I thought, was just maybe like a poor decision. They went for an onside kick instead of booting it away. They knew the Steelers weren't going to allow Hodges to throw the ball, so you get your stop, you have all three timeouts, and why not let one of your most dynamic players, Desmond King, who just had a punt return for a touchdown last week, who had a punt return for a touchdown against the Steelers, have a chance to return it. This, again, is just offensive line failure, and I think, I don't want to say stop trying to make Melvin Gordon happen, but maybe you got to work him in a little bit more, and while leaning on Austin Eckler a little bit more. I mean, I think Eckler currently is just the better back until Melvin kind of catches up. Whether that's condition, from a conditioning standpoint or just from a comfort standpoint, it's just not quite there yet. And I think they're trying to force him back in. And it's like, hey, if it takes 4 weeks, it takes 4 weeks.
It's also worth noting how many injuries we're working
Yes.
with as well. Like, who's not injured? What position group? I think running back might be the only position group that they're not injured.
Well, no, Justin Jackson, who was playing great,
Right,
by the way.
but I mean, they have two at least,
So, yeah,
right?
at least but yeah, you're right. So you have a
Like-
Pro Bowl left tackle out, Pro Bowl center out, Pro Bowl safety out, Pro Bowl defensive end, Melvin Ingram out. I mean, it is crazy how
I get that, but
It's easier to win with the good players,
We're now at week 7, and every team is dealing with injuries. Some
I think
are harder
theirs
hit
are
than
a
others,
little
but
bit, I think because, and I think it all started at week 1 when Derwin was out. He was so important to that team, much like Phillip Rivers was to the offense last year, and just kind of covering up for a lot of those issues on the offensive line by getting rid of the ball quick. Derwin fixed a lot of mistakes, and in place of him, you have an undrafted free agent, Roderick Teamer, who is routinely, and this is the part where I get fired, right? Who is just
the meter's up.
just, you wonder, I mean, is this guy really, should he really be on a field playing because of how green he is and what he was expected to do, and that's be on a practice squad and continue to develop over the course of a season. And now he's starting at a key position in Gus Bradley's defense, and it routinely is one that gets victimized for big plays.
It's really hard to replace Derwin James, though. Like,
Impossible.
for anyone. Like, there's a reason why he was so special, right? So it's not like
look, if
an
they can get
easy-
him back in the next 2 weeks, Okuna's available this week to come off of the list, the non-injury list. We'll see whether or not that comes together. It all helps. Look what happened. Hunter Henry comes back. He goes for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns because he's one of the best tight ends in the league. So you get Okun back this week maybe, then Derwin, and now you feel pretty good moving forward.
And stay tuned because at the end of the episode, we'll find out if Matt Money still has a job with the Chargers.
Exactly right. Oh, Freeland's Power 5 is next. Presented by Energizer, still going again. Oh no, what happened to Dan's? Let's refresh. Exactly. Just flip those blinds to the other side.
Nope, we're ready.
That's all the
We're
other
ready for
side of the
me.
blinds. Here we go. Pats 1 for Dan Hanzus. 49ers undefeated, beat up on the Rams. Fly all the way up to number 2, followed by a 3-pack of NFC competitors. And then the Texans and Chiefs back-to-back. Texans get the nod there in the tiebreaker because they just knocked off the Chiefs. So let's move.
That's perfect.
That is
perfect
this
one
week,
to
but
rate.
we agreed that maybe it's not this week because you were still talking about defending Super Bowl champ Patriots being number 1. So
I know,
thinking about
bastion of
adjusting that.
integrity, yeah.
Here is the long-term vision. Cynthia, walk us through what we're looking at.
Well, first of all, that SB stands for Super Bowl. So
What?
it's
I
not
didn't see
just
that
like
coming.
who they are week 7, right? Super Bowl win percentage. And the reason it's so low is because, well, let's face it, there's not that many teams that make the playoffs, right? So you have to both make the playoffs, then you have to win the games in the playoff to make the Super Bowl, and then you have to make the Super Bowl. I know exactly where you're going to go with this, but you know.
I mean, clearly you know where we're going. I mean, the Eagles just got thumped by the Vikings.
They didn't show up in that
Their
game.
secondary was in desperate need of something. A lot of people thought that something was Jalen Ramsey, and now we know it's not going to be. So you still feel good about that team ahead of the 49ers?
The machine lies.
Jeez.
Machine's such a big liar. No, look, here's the 2 things that are really important. The first, my model does acknowledge that the Eagles are tied with the Giants for allowing the most 40-plus yard passes.
That's probably bad.
Yeah, that's very
In a
bad.
passing league?
But, you know, they're both in the same division, right? And you know
Sure.
who else is in that division?
Cowboys?
Yeah, the Cowboys. You know who else?
Redskins?
One of them's got to make the playoffs. That's
Right.
the way our rules are. So in order to be eligible to win the Super Bowl, you have to make it to the postseason. The reason
I'm
you
following
don't
you.
see the NFC West teams in there is because they're all log jammed right up. They're going to beat
Not
each other up.
really. I mean, the 49ers are 3 losses up on the Rams and just beat them in L.A. Like, I wouldn't
Look
call
at the
that a
schedule
logjam.
going forward.
I would say that's a decided advantage for
You,
49ers.
the Niners still have to play the Packers,
Right.
the Saints, the Rams again, the Seahawks, I believe twice.
Yeah.
So there's still there's a lot of football left to be played, and there's going to be one from them that makes the playoffs. And once we figure out who it is, that Super Bowl number will jump. But right now, one team.
I'll put this to you and your fancy model friend.
My fancy model friend.
If you had to pick the 2 teams from the NFC West that are going to make the playoffs, because 2 of them are going to go.
Yeah.
What 2 are they?
It's going to be, I think the Seahawks 1, the Niners 2.
Okay. So see, that to me
Sorry.
means no logjam.
I
feel,
can't go home tonight. We live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I really like.
No, whatever. I think that's a fair assessment.
I think the Eagles. I think they're coached well. I like their defensive coordinator. But, you know, after they got Luke Falk and the Jets last week, it made you forget for a little while what their back-end issues were, and you just got a glowing reminder. And every time they face a top-tier passing attack, we're seeing them
But
get
they've
lit up.
always
That's a fatal
been like
flaw,
that.
maybe.
They've been like that for a while now, and then they've figured it out. Jim Schwartz has figured it out.
I like Schwartz.
Yes. The other thing to note there is, like, you can't be overly pessimistic because you see something bad against the Vikings. You have to even them all out because you have to look to see the game flow. What exactly happened? How many drops are involved? Because the Eagles, if we be talking about a completely different valuation of them, had those receivers caught a few more passes in earlier games. So the valuation comes into play here with what the actual problems are and then how to solve them,
But I
right?
guess that's my one issue, is we know what their actual problem is. It's their secondary.
But
and it's
do you
bad.
think
and it's
they're
like,
done dealing? Because it's not the trade deadline yet, ladies and
No,
gentlemen.
but I don't know what else is out there. You know, I mean, you had Marcus Peters moved, and Jalen Ramsey moved. So, I mean, look, we know Howie.
There's
It's
other
Trader
people out
Howie,
there.
right? He
Howie gets it.
always makes
There's
it.
He's
other
the guy
people.
you want in this
Howie
situation.
totally goes and gets something that
Yes.
works out, right? Like they got Jay Ajayi, who didn't like it was.
So your
flash in
model
the
is like,
pan.
I know Howie's going to make a trade.
My model's like Howie smart.
Right.
Bing.
All
Go.
right. So this is now this is random ranker for me.
Woo.
So I
I
noticed,
love
Dan
this.
Hanzus, that your top 5,
Mm-hmm.
in your I'll say your top 4, you have 3 of the top 4 teams, the 49ers, the Saints, and the Packers, 2, 3, and 4. They are all either yellow or gold
Nice.
in their
Oh,
color
yeah.
scheme. So I figured I would
that's
do a
cool.
random
You're biased.
ranker of great things that are gold.
Oh, okay.
All right.
This is a good one.
Perfect.
So here we go.
Well
I'll start at number 5. I love a good cities food battle.
Yes.
And Gold Star versus Skyline Chili. Not
a lot of
necessarily a fan
cheese.
of either, but I do love. I mean, you will if you go to Cincinnati, someone will give you an answer and an emphatic one and defend their position with their heart and their emotions, Gold Star or Skyline. So I'll start with Gold Star chili. If you go to Cincinnati, maybe get just like a taster cup. Just take a tiny little
Yeah.
taste, and that's probably enough.
It's like all cheese.
That is, it's
wrong with
over
that?
linguine
Nothing.
So
too.
that's what they
What's
do.
up
Yeah,
with
they
that?
put it over noodles.
Yeah.
Well, they put it on everything. All right, my number 4. I love
Nice start.
dudes that wear cheese. This is my guy,
This
Gary, by
guy.
the way. Gary, the Lakers sign guy.
Oh.
Always wears kind of that gold. You can see that ring on his finger. It's like it's actually a Lakers championship ring, but he always wears like the gold nugget jewelry. So
Perfect.
I love dudes that wear a lot of gold, specifically in this style of gold, like our man.
I think
Gary
it
here.
looks like Jason Kleinman.
It does actually. That's a great call.
I think that might be him.
All right, number 3. From cheesy gold jewelry to our number 3 item on the list, and stay gold, Pony. S.E. Hinton, we all had to read The Outsiders, right?
Yeah.
When we were in middle school, and
Great.
here you got Johnny, and Pony Boy Johnny's ready
That's
to bid farewell to this world, and he recalls the moment they had watching that sunset when old C. Thomas Howell shared that Robert Frost poem with him about nothing gold can stay.
How
And it was
about-
kind of that nice
That's
little
just
moment.
what really intellectual on us.
How
From
about a
cheesy
homework,
gold
yeah.
jewelry to
Yeah, exactly. You know, I cover all ends, both ends of the
you're
spectrum.
jack of all trades.
Everything in between.
A homework assignment for our younger viewers. Check out The Outsiders.
Check out The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. All right, number 2. What was this? Oh, solid gold. So yeah, if you're old like I am, check out the solid gold dancers. You had again,
Christmas.
I like a battle, and you had a television battle between Dance Fever and Solid Gold back in the day when you would have people come on, and this is pre-Dancing with the Stars and so much better than Dancing with the Stars because it was just average Joes that would show up. It would be like, hey, Betty and Bob live in Schenectady, and they like to go ballroom dancing at the VFW on Saturdays, and they would come out and do their routine, and then the Solid Gold dancers would come out and shake it as well. It was fantastic.
And there was a judge that decided who was the victor?
I don't remember. I think on Solid Gold it was just like a celebration of life, you know, whereas Dance Fever was more of a competition.
I want to see I would like to go to one of those after parties.
And exactly
People get
right.
loose, I
No,
imagine.
hey, you're
Yeah.
wearing Lycra and spandex. Let's go. All right,
Absolutely.
and finally,
Let the games
number
begin.
1 for the video game era.
Nice.
Oh, there it is.
That.
So you
that's
had the
great,
NES.
Fantastic.
Now you're in my
Nintendo
pop culture
Entertainment,
realm here, Mike.
right?
I love
So
it.
you had great cartridges for everything, and then you heard about this game that was going to change the world. This massive universe that you could explore, that was pliable, that had no determined.
It was like Fortnite before Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. And,
really was.
And Zelda, when you opened the package, it was like, holy cow, the cartridge is gold. And it
Because
made
you
you
didn't
feel
know
better.
that. It wasn't, because there was no social
Nobody knew,
media,
yeah.
so it wasn't,
Exactly.
it came out and then everyone was posting pictures. You pulled it open expecting a gray cartridge like every other Nintendo game was, and you got this gold thing,
Blowing
and then
it.
on top of it, it was a game that lived up to
It
the
was
hype.
great. Yeah.
We don't want to talk about the sequel, the Link sequel in 89.
Just the gold.
But
Just the gold cartridge.
Zelda,
so,
an
there you go.
all-timer.
Random ranker things that are gold.
Perfect.
That was a
Now,
nice- that was a nice
power to the people. Tweets for you, Dan Hanzus. Cowboys lose third straight game to a 0-4 team. RELAX. Eagles lose to a mid-league team to drop to the same 3-3 record as the Cowboys. Time to panic. Yeah, okay.
Okay, well, I just want to make it clear. All right, go ahead, keep going. I never wrote Time to Panic. Don't put words in my mouth. That's not fair.
Cowboys lose to a winless Jets team and barely drop. Meanwhile, the Eagles lose to a playoff contending Vikings team and drop 9 spots. Oh, see, there you go. So you got both ends.
It's the way they lost. I thought that the Cowboys, very beat up, got off to a slow start, made a charge against a Jets team that was due for a win, that got their quarterback back. They're not as bad as their record indicated. Whereas the Eagles, as we said, went to Minnesota and didn't compete. And that's not the first time. I kind of sent the Eagles into power rankings purgatory because this is the second time they've let me down, where I kind of got in on them and said,
you
people,
did.
pay attention to this team. Even though their record might not be great, they're going to be hanging around.
And they were
Now I'm a little
humiliated.
nervous because it's happened a couple times now where they haven't risen to the challenge. The machine backs them still, but the man is questioning it all.
Anytime Kirk Cousins humiliates you like that. You
Bit of a red flag.
Exactly right. When we return, MVP rankings, our debut of MVP rankings on Power Rankings, courtesy of this man, Dan Hands, who's next.
Wilson, 92 yards.
Oh, that's
All right, there we go. You get a glimpse of him again. We gave you just that brief bloop to plant the seed, and here it is. Let it sprout. Jets at number 25. Whatever with the rest of it.
They're up
Dan,
5
let's
spots.
Let's go. Jets
Yeah.
at 25.
I love it.
Gang green.
This is such a good time. The future is so bright
Don't do it.
in the Meadowlands.
Don't
I'm going to do it.
do it.
You
For
have
Daniel
to
Jones?
wear shades.
Do you know the name of the
Nailed
group?
it. Home run.
Do you know the name of the group?
Corey Hart?
Come on, man. That's Sunglasses at Night.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Fun Boy 3.
Fun boy.
Future so bright. Everybody should know that, right? Just a
Yeah, who
a
doesn't?
staple of
I know
80s
I do.
rock and roll.
Everyone wrote off.
Look at the next three.
Everyone, yes.
I think
that's
2 of those are
tricky.
winnable.
That's tricky, but winnable. 2 of them. Everyone wrote off Adam Gase as a failed experiment in New York, based upon the quarterback play that you could put Steve Walsh on the sideline from 1988. They weren't scoring 14
don't do
points a
that.
game.
Don't do that.
With what they had in place. What they had in the summer, everything looked hot. Everything was going in the right direction. And then Darnold got sick, and you just had to push the pause button, Money, on the whole operation and wait till the kid got back on the field. And the moment he gets back on the field, the Jets can hang with any team in the league just about, I think. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. They're 0-3, 0-4 means they're not a playoff team, but they are going to win more than they lose the rest of the way and go
Fun Boy
into
3. I have to
the
interrupt you. It wasn't Fun Boy 3. I blew it. I can't do the rest
put
of
on.
the show.
You got to put on the shades of
I
shame.
do. The shades of shame.
They are going to be a team that's going to give other teams trouble, and they'll be going into the offseason feeling good about themselves. Because
If anything-
Darnold,
look, if anything, I'll
Darnold
say
is the man.
this
He's
was-
special.
This was a great look. Mono, we goof about it and stuff, but yeah, it was serious. They were worried about his spleen. They were worried about his long-term health. This was a great absence for Darnold, because for all the people that were bringing in coming up, Danny Dimes and Saquon better than Darnold, Baker Mayfield better than Darnold. So most of the people I was around at the draft, and I don't know if you can speak to this as well, Cynthia, but most of them were Darnold over Baker people. And I think seeing what that offense looked like without a quarterback that can erase so many mistakes reminds people, oh yeah, this guy in his second year, he's really freaking good. And that, I think, is going to be good just long-term for the Jets.
Cynthia, please answer him in 1 second, but I want Money by nature is self-deprecating, but can we get another tight shot of Money because he looks good in those?
That's not true.
He does.
You do.
He does.
They
Not
really
true.
work
I have
for
a,
you.
I have a
You do, Money.
tiny, look at how
Look.
small my head is. Look how big
No,
the
don't do
sunglasses
that.
are.
I
You
don't.
look-
I actually
think you
don't
look
agree at
kind of
all. I
hot.
think you look great.
Yeah, go ahead, Cynthia.
You,
Sorry.
fire emoji, please.
I knew you'd
That's
take
what
it
I'm
off,
going
too.
with on that
It
one.
was your moment.
Okay, so
Thank you, Dan.
in the same way we talk about Jared Goff eroding under pressure, Sam Darnold's actually like really good under pressure. The problem is he's under way too much pressure in these first 2 seasons. So I agree with you that he is really good. And by the way, all of the people that I trust the most in terms of quarterback predictions, projections, they were Darnold over Baker as well. So I'm with
Yeah.
you completely on that one. So ultimately, for me, it's like, let's get him a situation where he's like not always under so much pressure. Like that's going to be the key to this team going forward. And it's not going to help with KO going out, Khalid Osamale
Yeah.
going out. Like there's a number of people. That O-line is
If you believe
No
in
bueno.
Joe Douglas, they are going to pour a ton of resources and draft capital into that O-line.
Trent Williams.
I
Trent
don't know
Williams.
about him, but
Tre-
maybe
Trent
they get Trent
oh.
Williams. The Jets
Okay.
have a chance to really build something with this quarterback, and my whole life I've never been able to
And
say
I'll
that.
button it with, you were talking about trades. I think you're going to see one, if not 2 of those defensive linemen move, I
Yeah.
would imagine. And that'll get you some draft capital to help
Leonard Williams,
with the rest
most likely.
exactly
Yeah.
of the team. All right, let's get to your MVP rankings here, Dan. But
Ooh.
first,
Oh, yeah, okay.
this will set the tone.
Oh, good.
Russell has time, still surveying the field. Now he rolls left. Now he scrambles. Now he's going to throw to the back of the end zone. Reaching up, making the catch. Did he get his feet in? He did! Touchdown! Seahawks! The littlest guy on the field climbed the ladder, kept his toenails in, and Tyler Lockett put 6 on the board for the Seahawks.
And that's, throws like that is why Russell Wilson is #1 on the MVP rankings right now, and I think it's by a pretty decent gap because it's a quarterback
Yeah, I'd concur.
driven award year after year just about. But Christian McCaffrey's at #2 for me is the one guy that you could say legitimately is in the mix. Adrian Peterson, the last running back to win it, that was 5 or 6 years ago. Deshaun Watson at #3. I think Watson is in that same category as Russell Wilson, like a guy that's playing at the height of his powers and makes a whole team around him much better. and then I have Aaron Rodgers at number 5. And who did I have at 4?
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes, who
Yep.
basically and he's the most talented player out of those 5 players. He can get hot and take this thing for a second year in a row, but that's where I see it right now.
Where is Tom Brady? For real. You know that this is going to happen. You know.
Come on, Cynthia.
Have you watched the NFL? I mean, this is the time of year we're like,
having a
oh, are the
great year.
Patriots good? We don't know. Oh, the Patriots, they might be undefeated, but like it's the defense. And then all of a sudden, we go to NFL Honors, which is like this show before the Super Bowl, and you know who's getting that award? Oh, TB12.
They'd have
but
to go
also he's not
16-0.
able to
Wait
he's
a
not able to
second.
take it because he's playing in the Super Bowl. So listen, it's Tom Brady's to lose, in my opinion.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah, I would-
wait a second.
I would disagree with that.
Your model, me watching the games, aren't we seeing the same thing, that it's the defense that's really been the
I'm
driver
not-
behind their success this
Look,
season?
you have to look at how this award is given. It's just doesn't go to, like, it's not going to be like, you know
if your
what?
model is correct and the Seahawks win the NFC West, then I would think that would mean
There's
just
a
because of
chance.
how good he's been that it's Russell Wilson's award. Now I'll throw out
throw
a
some
wild card. Let's just say that there is a particular team that finishes. They're 5-0 right now. Let's say they finish 13-3 or 14-2. Who knows? Based on their defense and based on what Nick
guy,
Bosa is doing.
Can you win the D-Roy
In prime
and
time.
Can you win both?
Look, it doesn't happen often, but
Leroy, I like that.
I think based on how this team is, the fact that Armstead is now coming around because of all the attention now paid to Bosa, and in turn Buckner, and now Armstead is starting to eat in that defense. That defensive line has completely been transformed by his addition, and I think if it keeps up. And he's sniffing 17, 18 sacks. I could totally see it happening if they end up winning the NFC West and have the top seed in the NFC.
We just talked about the Jets, my favorite team, and they had the 3rd overall pick in the draft, and I was praying and hoping somehow Bosa would fall because everything you heard was this guy was a potential generational talent, maybe even better than his brother. And so
Quinnen
far,
Williams
so
is
it
really
looks
good.
like possible.
Wait. Quinnen Williams is really good
You'll
too.
be fine.
You're going to be like that wasn't a
But an
missed
impact edge
opportunity.
rusher can change everything for
An
a
impact
defense.
interior defender. Aaron
Yes.
Donald much? Anyone?
Yeah,
No.
but
Yes,
just also
no?
on a team that already had an impact interior rusher. You could, I know Leonard Williams fallen off a little bit, but think
But
about
you have to
pairing
replace
Bosa
him because
up
you
with
can't
Williams.
afford Leonard Williams. So Quinnen Williams was actually a very, very
All right.
good pick.
No, I
for the
agree.
Jets.
But I'm more pointing out that this guy has been as good
Oh,
as
he's
advertised,
great. Yes,
Bosa, and
absolutely.
he's transformed the Niners.
I do want to point out that the Tim Buck 3.
What?
So I said Fun Boy 3. They covered our lips are
Fun
sealed.
boy.
Shades
Tim
of
Buck
shame.
3.
Who are
Is the
these
future.
people?
Put on the
Right,
shades
Who
of
are
shame,
they?
money.
Who
You're
are
angry.
they?
We'll
Looks
get to
good,
that next.
though. Looks good.
Back on Power Rankings presented by Energizer. Still going. Here we go. Hanzus. Positive remarks about the 49ers. Having a Rocky IV moment.
That's weird. I just watched Rocky IV with my son.
What Rocky IV moment would it be? Would it be the Lambo when he's driving around after Adrian says she doesn't believe in him? Is it the training
It's got to be
in Russia?
the training in Russia with
climbing the mountain?
KGB guys following him and synthetic training versus all natural.
You know what? That
no
was too
idea.
complimentary. Let's get to constructive criticism. Should no longer be called NFL Power Rankings. Should be called Dan Hanzu's NFL Team Rankings because Power Rankings are earned.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Those rankings are clearly not. I like
I'm
that.
putting on the shades,
good.
not the shades of shame, but just to
The
deflect all the
shades of
haters.
embarrassment.
That's amazing.
right.
What? I don't. That is interesting.
good.
That's an interesting critique, but can we keep these up longer so I can
I
look
do
at them?
kind of like the idea of like a giant Power Rankings by Dan Hanzers. You know, and I think you could have like a subtitle.
Power rankings are
there.
earned, Dan.
So
All
Power
right,
Rankings.
give me another one. Come on.
Yeah, I don't understand the criticism.
This ain't it.
Just
This
that
ain't it.
So wait, hold on. Pats, 49ers, Saints. Well, come on, Jen. Help us out.
A little more context you're looking for?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the
And
tweet.
I feel like the top three is pretty solid there.
You
know?
Like I said, I feel like I really nailed it this week. So
Saints. All right, last one. Here we go. Hopefully it's super mean.
yes,
Look at the name of the person who wrote it.
we had a guy.
DeBaltimorean.
There was a guy
That's
in high
incredible.
school who had an issue where he always got nosebleeds, and he had an issue. So what they had to do is they had to take a piece of skin from his
Bum?
butt,
Booty skin.
and put onto his nose.
Yeah.
So for the rest of his high school years, he was known as ass face.
That's horrible.
Yeah, and that was
Was
pretty
it
mean
you?
in retrospect. I did not have a procedure.
Right. Okay. So you're not the ass face.
No,
That's what
well,
we've
in this case, I
established.
am.
Got
but I'm
it.
saying ass face. That's a part of my life.
I do like a good I hate
earlier
you
years.
and I hate your ass face reference for those that can pick up on that one. So thank you, sir, from Twitter, or ma'am. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again next week with
DeBaltimorean. Kudos.
Power Rankings by Dan Hansen.